Hi there, welcome to Art Heist, where I teach you how to steal like an artist. We look at popular art styles from some famous video games and use them in order to grow ourselves as better artists. Sorry I'm holding an entire laptop right here. I couldn't get the script close enough to see while also like making eye contact with the camera and being in front of the green screen. So now I'm holding my whole laptop. So I guess that's how this is gonna go. Today we're looking at Undertale. Let's be honest, you know what Undertale is. If you don't, you might not be ready for this. But it's too late to back out now because you're already here, and if this heist goes any more poorly, we're definitely all getting arrested. So, we can't really afford to get caught. If you don't know what Undertale is, it's a story-led RPG created by the one and only Toby Fox. There's gonna be a picture of him up here, or something similar, I'm not entirely sure yet. In the spirit of honesty, I should probably tell you that I actually haven't played Undertale, much to the dismay of my entire live chat, who have been asking me to play it for a little while now. It's Mr. Fox's art that we're going to be taking a look at today and learning from. Little disclaimer, to be clear, stealing art is not okay. We're not actually here to steal. You should never take credit for something you haven't done, and that's not what we're here to do today. We are here to learn from the incredible work of Toby Fox and hopefully grow as better artists. We're not actually interested in taking anyone's art or credit for ourselves if we do not deserve it. That's our little disclaimer. Yeah. Let's actually start the heist here. My goodness, this is actually heavier than it looks. Sorry. That or I'm just a little weak baby. Today we're going to be focusing on character sprites, and in order to learn how to create characters that look like they're out of Undertale, we're going to create a list of those rules that help us create character sprites. And what is my script right now? Okay, never mind. In order to learn how to create a character that looks like it belongs in Undertale, there we go, we're going to create a list of those characteristics that make a sprite looks like it's from Undertale, and create kind of a little rule set to help us devise what exactly we need to do to make our characters also look like they're from Undertale. It's actually gonna be two lists, I suppose I should probably say. There's like the part of Undertale where you're like in the overworld walking around, right? And then there's the part where you're like battling. So we're gonna have one list for people that we're walking around and meeting, and one list for people who are actually like battling and fighting. And then hopefully we can use each list to create characters that match the style of that portion of the game. Anyways, I need to scroll down. Oh no. Oh no. Starting with the Overworld sprites, the first thing we notice is that the sprites are all shaped very differently. Characters within Undertale come in all shapes and sizes. Yeah, that's true. One could have like a tiny pointy hat. The other could be extremely muscular and buff with like a weird curly tail looking thing. Kind of like a mermaid. Kind of the bottom line here though, is that characters are unique and they can be like pretty much anything. If you have a vague idea for a character, it can be one. If you want to make a clock that walks around and talks from its back and has like its face on its back, okay, that could definitely be a character. As long as it's weird, you're on the right track. The second rule is that the character shape should definitely be recognizable. This is actually a pretty common tip in almost all character creation spheres. So like take a look at this. Okay, let's take a look at this guy right here. We know who this is. We also know who this is and who this is. Without even a drop of color, we can tell that this is Nastablook, Gaster, and Toriel. The point that I'm making is that even with just a silhouette and no color, we can tell who each of these characters are. And that's like a big part of Undertale, is the characters are recognizable from just their shapes. So when we design our character, we also need to keep in mind that we need to be using unique shapes that help us so we can actually tell what's what and what's going on. A good way to check if you're following this tip is if you take the character that you've drawn and completely black out all the colors, if you can still tell who it is and like what it's vaguely supposed to look like, then you're on the right track. If you black it out and it kind of just looks like a circle or like a little strange blob and it's not supposed to look like a blob, you might need to work a little bit more on shaping your character and its kind of like individuality into a position that's more recognizable. You can do this through the pose, you can do this through a lot of different things, which actually leads us to rule 3, which is that the heads of Undertale's characters help provide a lot of shape and uniqueness. So if you're having some trouble with the shape, focus on the head maybe. The heads in Undertale are often either half the size or the same size as the rest of the character sprite. This kind of helps serve two purposes. The first one is the shape, like we just spoke about, but also it helps with a lot of emotion. The face is really where we get most emotion when it comes to like humans. Obviously body language is pretty important. If I'm like slouched over like this, You're probably getting some sort of emotion. It's probably not a good one, but there's probably a emotion. Also, I just realized I'm wearing green. I just realized I'm wearing green. I'm not going to show up on the green screen. Okay. We're just going to have to keep going. We're too deep in now. Yeah, we can use the size of the characters' heads to actually, like, show more emotion, right? It gives more room for the eyes. It gives more room for the mouth, even a nose if we want to fit one on there. So that's also pretty important, is to get a pretty decently sized head on there. And one final, ultimately a little bit looser rule is that characters in Undertale often have an outline. This kind of helps with shape and readability of the sprites, and usually it's black, although there are some notable exceptions. Some characters also have different colored outlines, such as blue. This guy's got a blue outline. Some characters don't even have an outline at all, like the main character and this guy as well. And some characters have a partial outline, where some of it's outlined, some of it's not. So we have kind of a variation on this, but most of them have black outlines. Yeah, so that's a little bit of a looser rule there. One final note I should probably mention is that most of the sprites in the Overworld area are also 64 by 64-bit as like a sprite size. So that's like relatively big when it comes to like character creation, and it's kind of daunting if you're like kind of new to pixel art to have such a large canvas size. But as long as you follow the first couple of rules about shape and uniqueness, and you keep it like somewhat simple with what the overall shape should look like, you should have no problem at all. Anyways, let's try actually making a drawing with these rules in mind. So we're gonna cut here. We're gonna cut to stealing, I guess. So now I was making my little monster guy. I wanted something really unique so that it could like line up with the first two rules really well. I somehow decided that a living upside-down bowl of ramen would work well for a little Undertale monster. I just imagined him kind of like running around with noodles flopping about, and I just thought that was really funny. This also worked especially well for creating a massively large head like we discussed, as well as creating a very recognizable shape should it ever be blacked out. I also noticed that quite a few sprites in the game seem to have pants that match their outline color, so I decided to incorporate that here, even though I didn't really put it as a rule in the sheet. It's not universal, which is why I didn't really put it in the rules, but I just thought it was kind of interesting, and it worked pretty well for my character, so I just added it as well. I should also inform you guys that I'm getting close to my self-set deadline for this video, and my eyes are crossing due to how long I've been looking at my video editor. So I am going to split this video up into two separate parts, and the fight sprite section will come a little bit later this week. Sorry to clickbait everyone, I did not mean to. There's just so much work to do, and I want to make sure I'm getting good content out somewhat consistently so that the YouTube algorithm doesn't literally smite me from above. Anyways, if you created your own character while listening, you should totally share it in our Discord. We love to see art from all our different community members, and it would be really neat to see yours. The link should be in the description. If it's not, it's definitely in my channel description. Anyways, thanks so much for watching. I will see you all in the next one. Have a great day.